Good morning, everybody. Thank you so much for coming this morning and joining us for our webinar on the impact that AI will have on the future of marketing. My name is Greg Kaywood. I'm the president and co-founder of IQnection. We're a digital marketing agency who services a variety of small to mid-sized B2B companies in a variety of different industries, but with a major focus in the manufacturing space. From a day-to-day standpoint, we're really good at providing services like search engine optimization, pay-per-click campaign management, web development, social media. All of those things are either currently being impacted or likely to be impacted quite heavily by artificial intelligence in the very near future. So we're actually fully embracing AI technology. We are staying on the cutting edge of that technology, and we want to spend some time today, this morning, with you, kind of sharing our experience in using it and really deciding, is AI going to replace marketers? And I can say quite resoundingly right now, this morning, with the information that I have, is that absolutely not. Marketing really will become supercharged with the use of artificial intelligence. And really, the people that have to worry, the marketers that have to worry, are the marketers that don't embrace AI. I think those marketers will quickly be replaced by other marketers who just love this AI technology. So the format for today's discussion is that we have four different speakers who will get a chance to introduce themselves in just a moment. And we're going to be moving through sort of individual topics, kind of picking at various aspects of AI and talking about them. But to kind of introduce myself, I want to share with you a little story that I have about an interaction that I had with an AI system that I think is really fascinating. And big picture is that I don't think AI tools are something that we're going to use, make a decision kind of consciously to say, hey, let's go do AI for something and then come back to our non-AI empowered world. I think really these tools are going to be literally just in absolutely everything. So a lot of my day today is kind of like jumping in and out of various AI tools. But I think in the future, they're just going to be built directly into the technology that we use all the time. And one example of that in my life was my wife went to a dermatologist for a routine checkup. And while she was there, the dermatologist recommended to get a couple moles removed. Sorry, not a glamorous topic, but it's really interesting. So she went through that procedure, not a big deal, took like 2 minutes. And then when she got home, the dermatologist had sent the moles off to be kind of analyzed and had a pathological report done on them. And we got a document that sort of just told us what the findings were. And all of them, except for one, came back with very little information attached. It basically, for most of them, it was just like, fine, this one's fine, this one's fine. One of them came back with like a half a page worth of medical speak content. Now, I do want to tell you that I actually was a pre-med major. I have a bio degree. I'm good at that stuff. I can read it, but the language was so foreign to me that I really didn't know what to do. So I hit Google, did some, what does this word mean? And it really was unclear. But because I've been using AI so much, I decided just to highlight that whole block of text and paste it directly into ChatGPT. And I asked it in a prompt, I said, hey, can you just give this to me in layman's speak? And I got to tell you, it was the most wonderful experience. It took all of that and it just simplified it for me. And it said, hey, there's nothing wrong, nothing to worry about here. Everything's good. And I just thought, wow, wouldn't it be amazing if in all of these sort of medical documents, there's just an AI button in the top corner that says, make this easy for me to understand. In legal documents, in all of these things, a great terms of service. We all are used to kind of scrolling through hundreds of pages and ignoring them. Wouldn't it be cool if AI could just summarize them for me? So with that little anecdote, I'm going to pass it over to Haley to introduce herself, and then we'll just kind of all introduce ourselves and get started with our main presentation. But welcome. Haley, over to you.
Thank you, Greg. Like Greg mentioned, my name is Haley, and I'm the marketing department manager at IQnection. I kind of have a little piece of everything that we do. So, blog, copywriting, social media, website design, kind of involved in everything, and really like kind of having my hands in all the different buckets. So, I've gotten to see how AI works in a lot of different ways throughout the marketing process, and I'm really excited to share some of our findings with you today. A really cool story I have about it. So, in my free time, fitness is something that I really care about, going to the gym, going on runs. I have a very active dog, so we end up doing a lot of walks and runs. But I get kind of bored and I don't know what to do. So I actually used an AI tool, ChatGPT, to come up with a week's worth of workouts for me. All I did was input the equipment that I have, kind of time that I want to spend, what my fitness goals were, and they give me very clear instructions of what I should be doing each day of fun, creative activities. A really cool tool that they also have is if I didn't like the workouts, I was able to regenerate the responses and come up with something that I liked even better or modify my response, which we're going to get into a little bit further today. But without wasting too much more time, I will pass things off to Ariel so she can get to introduce herself as well.
Thank you, Haley. Hi, everyone. I'm Ariel Piano. I am an account manager here at IQnection who specializes in social media management and content. And one way that AI has shaped my personal experience with it is that one time I wanted to return a dress to Amazon. And at first, I was told by Amazon that I can only get half my refund back. So I didn't like that answer. So I decided to have ChatGPT write me up a stronger worded email. And then that actually landed me with a full refund. So I happily use it to generate, more powerful speech that sometimes helps me take my emotion out of it and address the logic a bit better than what I can do in those moments. So that's just one fun anecdote that I've had personally with AI, but I'm really excited to dive into the rest of what we have planned for you guys today. And I want to give Randy a chance to introduce herself as well. So, Randy, take it away.
All right. So hi everyone. My name is Randy Lindsay. I am an account manager here at IQnection. I am also a content marketing specialist by trade. So I am really invested in how AI is changing the way we write content. I'm very excited to talk about that more today. But me personally, one of the ways I have used AI is to change how I'm cooking. A fun fact about me, I don't really like cooking that much. I don't like coming up with recipes, but I was able to use ChatGPT to come up with a more fun fruit salad recipe that included a really nice homemade dressing. But I'm going to hand it back over to Haley so she can get us started today. And thanks again for joining us.
All right, thanks, Randy. So, just want to start a little bit and kind of show you guys a quick clip of AI in the media today. So this is a pretty popular show called South Park. If you don't know it, they recently did a episode where they used ChatGPT to text their girlfriends back. So they're middle school boys. They would take the text from their girlfriends, put it in ChatGPT, and say, "Respond to this," and they would pump out an answer. So I think the point of this is just to talk about how, first of all, a human isn't able to really differentiate. The girls were having great conversations. It was helping the boys out. And I actually know someone who did something similar in their own life and had a lot of success with it. So it's pretty funny how the ways that people are able to adapt these programs to use, but we're going to focus on a little bit more of the professional side throughout our conversation today. So let's talk about the numbers. First, I'm going to add a poll to the side, just asking if you've used AI before in your work or personal life. Feel free to give that an answer whenever you get the chance. But so let's start on that bottom pie chart. That's kind of talking about the areas of where people are using AI in any type of sense, in their personal life and work life. You can see the US is the largest single chunk in that, which is awesome. We're using it a lot. I know it's been pretty commercialized. They're doing a lot of social media and direct traffic. People like the word of mouth has been crazy. So a lot of people are going to those websites. But the main takeaway that I get from this is that extra 68.4% is made up of small percentage, 0.0275 or less of countries using it. So it represents most of the world. It's being used by everyone all over the world. It's really helpful. It's just gaining popularity, which we can see up in that top right graph of the visits of ChatGPT. A lot of these stats are from ChatGPT, while there are a lot of other AI tools that we'll be talking about today, just because they do a really good job of reporting their numbers, their traffic, and it's also a well-known tool that's gained a lot of popularity in the last few months. So you can see that it's been a steady increase, especially I think January was when they dropped the latest update that became a little bit more commercialized. January, February, March, April, starting to plateau, but still gaining speed. So we're using it a lot more. I know I'm going on more times a day than I was before, so it definitely makes sense to me. And ChatGPT currently has 100 million users. We're only some of them. I know most of the people I know have an account, even if they're not using it daily for work. But it's something that really helps you in any aspect of your life. So, whether you're trying to think of planning a vacation or, like I mentioned, a workout, it's really easy to use, and that's why so many people are using it. AI in marketing has grossed 15.84 billion US dollars. So it's not just these free chat platforms like ChatGPT that we're talking about. It's companies using AI technology in their premium options. We're going to talk about some free, some premium paid AI tools today. So stick forward for that and later in the presentation. All right, so AI, we've talked about its growth in the last 6 months. That's really when we've seen the larger conversations about it, but this has been for a long time, almost 80 years or about 80 years. That's when we had the first artificial neuron model made up. And artificial intelligence, is modeled after the brain. So the first artificial neuron was the beginning of AI. If you guys have seen the movie The Imitation Game with Alan Turing, that's, he made a very complex computer. And that's a little bit more about machine learning and intelligence. Today, we use something called the Turing test, which is where a human can tell if they're talking to another human or a computer differentiated by their responses. So really cool to see the kind of history of AI getting pulled through today in the applications. The term artificial intelligence was first used in 1956. So again, this has been something that's been talked about for a really long time. We've seen advancements in AI through technology. They're able to stimulate more conversation. We've had a lot of developments in technology in general. We've seen smaller, more accessible technology in the household in the last, even 20 years, especially. And then with that, we've seen the growth of AI as well. So we've seen it become more complex. We've seen it become more accessible. It's been able to uh, strategize and beat people in chess. It's able to recognize images. You even notice it. It unlocks your phone these days. It recognizes your face. There's examples of it, auto completing your emails. It's more than just these language models that we're talking about now more recently. But in the last 6 months, at the end of 2022, we saw that the OpenAI ChatGPT has become adapted for the general use of the public, which is why that kind of sparked the conversation about using it and using it in your work. All right, so on this screen, we can see a lot of the different AI tools that are out there. ChatGPT is that top left that we've been discussing. Jasper's another big one. But it's not just all this AI language models. They have one specific for imagery, voice, video, podcasts. They're really, the sky's the limit with these, and they're becoming more specialized. And the more specialized that they become, the better that they are at doing what they do. So we're talking about a bunch of these throughout this presentation today with imagery, with blogging, which ones are okay with checkers, which ones do better. So if you have a favorite one or if you talk about them, we'd love to hear about that after this presentation. We like to test them all and try to figure out what's the best for us and definitely get different results based on the one we use. So if you do have a favorite one, please let us know after. So again, back to ChatGPT. How does it work? It's been tested. Step one, they did kind of the demonstrated and trained it and told it what the better answers were. Then they did comparison data. Then they optimize that. But really what matters isn't how it works. We know it works. We know it's tested. We know it's professional. We need to know how to use it. And especially in marketing, the best way to use it to get the right results. We're going to give you some really good advice on how to dive deep into ChatGPT and really get the best results out of your prompts towards the end of this presentation. So stick around if you want to hear that for sure. And then what can you do with it? So like I mentioned, strategy is a huge thing. Copywriting, you can write full blogs. You can have SEO, you can have it come up with long tail keywords. For example, if you're a manufacturing company that works with milling, you can have it come up with 20 long tail keywords that you might want to rank for. Media, it can create custom imagery if you have if you find that iStock doesn't carry a lot of imagery that would work well in your industry. Development. I'm not a developer. I was able to code something on a website with the help of ChatGPT. It translated it to HTML. I was able to get it up on the site and save our developer a little bit of his time. So that was really cool. And translations, we're going to talk about that a little bit later and kind of how that is a pro, but you can reach a wider audience. With accessibility these days, you want to be able to talk to as many different people as possible and reach as many of your potential customers. So they do really good translations to any different language. It's your smartest know-it-all friend with no common sense that needs kind of you to guide it in the right direction. So without any more conversation about this, I'm going to pass it over to Ariel. She can kind of dive deeper into more of the media side of things.
Thanks, Haley. So hi, everyone. Again, my name is Ariel, and I am here to talk to you about how AI imagery and design tools can revolutionize your branding. So I found this statistic, and basically it was about how there were 48% of respondents in a HubSpot survey that stated that they would interact with AI more frequently if it made their customer experience with a brand more seamless, consistent, and convenient. And that's exactly what we're here to explain to you today, so you can see how AI can improve your business. Overall, I'll be covering a few different topics related to pain points and challenges you experience with AI, the type of programs we use, some success stories, and then some future opportunities for you. So let's get started. First and foremost, if you own a business or if you have any marketing needs for your services or products, you're probably using one or all of these marketing avenues to promote them. And obviously, these are just a few key pillars that will help bring your business to life through design. So whether you're in need of a logo or product packaging, social media management, or any marketing collateral like business cards or brochures, or even a website, you'd be pretty surprised to find that AI can assist in these areas at a faster rate and more affordable rate. And then, of course, with any marketing need, it takes a lot of effort, as I'm sure we all know, to make these moving design parts work together cohesively. And in order for it to be successful, you may have found that you either don't have the right skill set, you don't have enough time, you don't have the resources, or you don't have the staff to produce them. But luckily, this is where we come in. By our team being able to implement the new tools, we're able to produce content for you at a faster rate, for a more affordable price, and then include a handful of other benefits. And I want to make sure that you guys are aware that, the purpose of incorporating AI isn't to replace humans altogether, nor is it to replace our workload. It's to use these tools sort of as if they were an assistant to us. So, for example, an assistant's work still needs to be checked over, most likely needs an editor too, or to be changed up a bit, but they're still producing something substantial that does save you the time, money, and resources. So let me dig into what some of the tools are that I use every day in my life to enhance, certain content pieces. So these are the top 3 AI tools that specifically help the design and imagery aspect of my job. I'll go into some demonstrations for you in just a moment, but before I do, I want to just take a second to explain the differentiators between each site. So Dolly is the first one, and it's most known for photorealism. And then the second one is Canva Magic Edit, and it's most known for its photo transformation with the swipe of a brush. And then Midjourney is most known for its multiple designs and then the ability to stretch the images, the image sizes, no matter the pixel or the DPI. So any designers out there, I'm sure that's super helpful for you guys. If you haven't tried it, definitely recommend. And then also our team is curious. So we put together a poll where you can tell us if you've ever played with any of these platforms, and you can just feel free to click on the polls tab at any point in time and let us know. So first up is Dolly. Basically, I needed some new manufacturing imagery for a B2B client of mine. At first, I typed in a prompt that kind of gave me a cartoon style result, which you see now. So I knew that I had to adjust the prompt to generate a more realistic image. And then you'll see that in just a moment, which I was pretty happy with the outcome. It's kind of night and day. Just tweaking a couple words really changes the outcome that AI can give you. For context, this is just the beginning of prompt language, and Greg will go into that a bit later, but Overall, AI still requires inputs over time to really provide the benefits. So without quality inputs, the outputs of AI will be limited and, could probably cause frustration if you're trying to do it on your own. And I actually found out that Heinz was the brand that created the first ever ad campaign with visuals generated entirely by artificial intelligence. So I thought that was pretty cool. I also looked up and I saw that they received so much attention from this practice that their fans started to generate their own versions and then sent them in, which Heinz then doubled down on and took the fan art and repurposed it in their own social media promotions. So this turned out to be a great success for them, and it could be for you as well. Next up, I'll be showing you how I improved some of our team headshots using Canva Magic Edit. Full disclosure, this is one of my favorite ones to use. So first up is Greg's headshot. It's a great photo, but I needed to give it more of a work-appropriate background. So I went ahead and typed that in, and I started to have a bit of fun changing the background. We found some friends along the way, but ultimately I wanted a simplified background. So I went with something like that, and I moved on to Haley. So again, great photo, but I think what would improve this photo is if she had a desk. So I typed that in, found one that I loved, moved on to me, and apparently I forgot to iron my shirt this day. So I'm looking for a blouse that's a bit more fitting and less wrinkly, which I'm happy with that. So we go into Randy finally, and she looks great. So I'm really not going to touch the picture much, but I am going to give her some more eyelashes because what girl doesn't want more mascara? But what I love about this tool is that I was able to create some super polished versions of our headshots that only took me a couple minutes to do. And with Photoshop, it probably would have taken me around like 30 to 45 minutes. So just goes to show that this program has such a wide range of options, and it can be really helpful for your work. Something as simple as changing your LinkedIn headshot and making it a bit more professional. Next up, I'm going to show you Midjourney. So Midjourney is another great tool, and I want to show you specifically that I gave it a super detailed prompt. You can even screenshot this and use it for yourself because there's a lot to take in. But most importantly, I want to point out the part of the prompt where I mentioned shooting the image with a specific camera. And then I also mentioned that the image result needs to be photorealistic. So as the percentage of the project completion goes up, you start to see the pictures start to come more to life. And they end up giving me 4 options, and I'll zoom in on those in just a second. So these are the options they gave me for 3 men in manufacturing. We have options 1 and 2, and then options 3 and 4. To me, they look a little bit like a Sons of Anarchy spinoff, which I would totally watch. And you can even go in to edit these pictures as needed in Midjourney, but for the sake of the time, I'm going to move on to our next slide. So a really important statistic I found was this. As we move on to some direct correlations with results we received in our own social media content, this statistic was one that really struck a chord with me. And I want to dive into some stats for you guys so you can see how it worked for us. So how do we use it and how did it work for us? Well, in the last 90 days, we've been incorporating AI tools across our platforms, and we've seen some pretty dramatic differences. So for example, as you can see, we saw a 524% increase in our Facebook post reach. We saw a 410% increase in our Instagram reach, and then a 100% increase in our LinkedIn followers. And this was all inclusive of certain tools like using ChatGPT to assist in social media captions, or utilizing ChatGPT to assist in creating video scripts, and even Canva Magic edited photos, and some blog promotions that showcase AI features. So all those, taken into consideration, of course, there are other elements that, are at play here and help us garner this success. Just to give you an idea, we have to keep in mind that these numbers are also a result of the time of the day the content was published, the optimized hashtags we included, the style of videos we produced, even down to the trending audio that we added in. But these numbers are partially occurring because we're able to pump out content at a much faster rate due to the added help from AI. So, by incorporating these AI tools, we're able to become more efficient without replacing human creativity. And these tools act as assistants, providing, substantial content that saves us in a lot of ways. So just to wrap up here, as an account manager specializing in social media management, these tools have been super helpful in impacting my deliverables and my due dates. And, by working with a team that embraces the new technology, you will see that it can elevate your marketing strategies, drive engagement, and then unlock new possibilities for your business. So with that being said, I am going to let you guys hear from Randy on the pros and cons of content marketing with AI.
Yeah, thanks, Ariel. That was awesome. But once again, my name is Randy. And as a person who enjoys writing both professionally and personally, I'm really invested in AI language models and how they play into your overall marketing and SEO strategy. So I've seen a lot of benefits to using AI in my daily work, but I've also fallen into some pitfalls myself, and I want to make sure that no one else falls into them too. So we're going to go through some of those today, but we're going to start off with the pros, of course. So the first major pro we have is something that Haley mentioned earlier, which is that AI is multilingual and has multilingual capabilities. So when you're trying to reach a diverse multilingual audience, you can rely a little bit on AI language models like ChatGPT to help you get started. So in my example here, I took a caption that was promoting the webinar that you're in right now, and translated it into both German and Spanish. Those languages were chosen because either members of our team or people in our immediate network speak these languages. And we were able to kind of confirm what that translation said. What we found was that it was pretty successful. There are no direct translations for words like supercharged, webinar, but overall very successful. But one thing to keep in mind when it comes to translating with any sort of language model is that things like geography, region, and the context of what you're saying are going to change how words translate. So you should always make sure that you have someone on your team who is able to double check these translations and make sure the context is correct so you don't accidentally miss your target audience altogether just by using a slightly different word than you should have. But my favorite overall pro to using AI language models is to use them as a personal assistant. I think everyone on our team has mentioned that so far, but using AI as your assistant can really help you organize your thoughts, check your work, and check your knowledge. So when it comes to organizing your thoughts, you can use AI to kind of quickly summarize your notes from a brainstorm, help you come up with titles for topics that you have ideas for writing content about. When it comes to checking your work, we all know proofreading can take forever. So instead of wasting too much time proofreading, you can use AI to help you check for silly grammatical errors, a missed comma here and there, and just kind of cut down on that downtime for yourself. Send it over to your helpful little friend on the side. When it comes to checking your knowledge, this is where things get a little bit different. First and foremost, you can use AI to kind of I hesitate to say it, but supercharge what you're Googling. So a personal example, someone recently asked me, is zipline 1 or 2 words? And I was like, I'm pretty sure that I know this is a 2-word situation, but it also could be 1 word. So I was Googling it. I couldn't get a straight answer no matter how long I was spending. So I turned to both ChatGPT and Bard to kind of confirm. I found out that there are technically 3 ways to spell zipline. It's listed 3 different ways in 3 different dictionaries. So I was able to kind of get my answer more quickly, but also figure out why I was having such a hard time in the first place, which was really beneficial. But when it comes to checking your knowledge, there are some pitfalls there that you got to look out for. One is that AI is not always accurate. A great example of this is when you send any sort of math equation through ChatGPT or any other language model that's out there. In this example, I gave it a pretty simple PEMDAS equation, no parentheses, no exponents, but just by changing up the way that I entered this equation, the formula, it gave me wildly different answers. And this is because AI language models approach math the same way an English professor would. They understand the context or not the context, but they understand the language around the problem, but they don't understand the context, which leads you to inaccurate results. So first point there, if you have any sort of math calculation need that you need AI on the side to help you out, do not use a language model. Use something like Wolfram Alpha that is designed to do mathematics. But the second piece here is that it extends beyond math into the content you're writing. And that is where these accuracy issues can cause issues for your website and your brand overall. I have fallen into this personally in my early days of experimenting with AI. I had created blogs in part written by AI. And while I did spend a lot of time on these blogs trying to make them the best pieces of content that I could, they unfortunately were not indexed by Google. So a little bit of background on indexation. That is when a site crawler goes through your site, reads your content and said, yes, this is great. We want this to be found in search. But unfortunately, when you over rely on AI, this cannot be found in search because these site crawlers are not seeing it as high quality content. So if you are using AI to help you in creating any of your marketing materials, you have to be very not careful, but cautious, and really apply your human knowledge, the context that you are able to provide a piece to make it as great as possible and to make sure that it is visible in search. Your website visibility, as a reminder, does directly impact the leads you're getting and ultimately the bottom line of your business. But of course, that's our first pro. So I want to move into our second pro, or excuse me, that's our first con. Want to move forward in our conversation of cons and pitfalls a little bit here. And of course, that is into the realm of bias in AI. This slide does look a little bit sinister. We do have a sinister robot, but bias in AI can be kind of a heavy topic. Some light examples. In the example on screen, I asked ChatGPT if it was able to make content that didn't need humans to edit it or massage the content into something high quality. It's biased to itself. It said, yes, I can do anything. I am the best writer on the planet. Clearly an exaggeration, but right there is a pretty entry level example of bias in AI, which is that it's biased towards itself or it's in favor of itself. We can see this kind of throughout other industries. I know there was an author or a writer at Wired a couple of months ago who's fed ChatGPT a couple pieces of their writing. ChatGPT claimed false authorship of these pieces. And a fun fact is that it will do this with almost anything that you feed it. But bias in AI is not always all fun and games. Sometimes it's very serious. Two really quick examples. The first being Amazon in 2017 relied on an AI model to check out different applicants coming into its system, comparing their resumes and their overall applications to applications of people in the past. Unfortunately, since women are historically underrepresented in technology fields, the hiring platform was able to kind of pick up on when an applicant was a female versus a male and automatically was rating those applicants lower than their male counterparts. Also in Microsoft, I believe in 2016, they made a Twitter bot named Tay. Tay was launched to interact with people on Twitter, and they just wanted to see how its filters about content would work and just see it interact with real users and see if they were able to pick up on the fact that Tay was not a person. Unfortunately, the filters that they had put in place failed within 24 hours. Tay began to post some very offensive content on Twitter, and she was just taken down altogether. You know, we think back on AI and how far it's come, and we see these terrible examples in the past, but we bring this up to say that testing AI is so important to your business overall and making sure it's properly manned. So whenever you're using AI, maybe it's automated, maybe it's something that you are like actively involved with, just make sure you are always testing and always have someone keeping a close eye on those programs, because when those things fail, it does impact your reputation. And unfortunately, that can also impact your bottom line if you're in a regulated industry. These sorts of issues could really even result in fines. So moving past this heavy topic, I do want to talk about something that has been in the news a little bit recently, which is AI checkers. These are platforms that run sort of pattern recognition softwares to see, or pattern recognition algorithms to see if something was written by a person or written by AI language models. We hear about them a lot for current students, and then sometimes they are used professionally to check if people are creating content themselves or not. But I wanted to do a little bit of an experiment since I personally had that issue with indexation with blogs in the past. I wanted to see what these platforms were rating my content as, if they were seeing it as human or what. So I started a little bit of an experiment. I took a blog that I wrote word for word, every last piece of it, didn't even use AI to brainstorm the topic. I took the first 1,400 characters of that blog and I fed it into 6 of the most popular AI checking tools that are known for accuracy and have a lot of users. This includes Content at Scale, Writer, CopyLeaks, Winston AI, ParagraphTool.ai, and GPT-0. And I got some pretty mixed results. I was a little personally insulted by Winston. Winston really was not able to tell if my work was human or not. But I wanted to take this a step further and see what would happen if I used 2 widely available language models to write a similar blog. So I started off with Google Bard. I took Google Bard. I told it, hey, write a blog about this. Do your absolute best to pass these AI checkers. And unfortunately, Google Bard stood no chance whatsoever. Everything was able to pick up on the fact that it was not written by a human. But when I tried the same thing with ChatGPT, that's where things got a little bit interesting. ChatGPT was unfortunately, or maybe fortunately, able to pass a fair amount of these checkers. Writer was completely unable to distinguish my blog from the ChatGPT blog. Winston AI seems to think everything is AI no matter what you do. But even GPT-0 and paraphrasing tool.ai, which had been pretty consistent up until this point, were a little confused. Instead of saying likely AI like it did with Bard, it said may contain AI. So those two platforms think a person was involved, and some of them were completely fooled overall. So I bring this up to say that just like with everything else in AI, when you are creating content or when you're checking content, you really do need to put on your person hat and not just rely on what the program is telling you. There are so many pros to using AI. You can save yourself so much time, check your knowledge, and just kind of use it as your personal assistant to get your creative juices flowing. But there are cons. It is biased, whether it is an AI language model itself or the checker. It's inaccurate, which we can see just time and time again. And all of this is just because there is no context in the AI world. It has so much information, but nothing to pull from. And I know that Greg has some points on this, and he is about to jump into a not much cooler, but a very cool topic. So I'm going to pass it off to Greg to talk a little bit about how to get the most out of these platforms without falling into the same pitfalls that I've discussed.
Hey, thank you so much, Randy. Awesome. Yeah, so I'm going to be talking about ChatGPT specifically and sort of how do you construct prompts so that ChatGPT gives you really incredible outputs. But I do want to just kind of roll the clock back 1 second and just mention something that Randy was talking about on whether or not the content that these AI large language models generate can be detected. Um, One of the things that I know for sure is that if ChatGPT writes something and you then take that copy and put it back into ChatGPT and ask it if it wrote it, it will be able to tell you with 100% accuracy whether it did or not. So it seems like ChatGPT is able to remember everything that it writes as part of its language model so that it's very, very easy to detect whether it's been written by an AI tool, specifically ChatGPT or not. And that just has huge implications for us as marketers around copyright and who owns the content that will appear on blogs, websites, articles, things of that nature. We also know for sure Google is very good at detecting blog content that has been written by AI. We, as Randy mentioned, ran some tests, and we had a number of blogs that we wrote with AI just to see what would happen that did not get indexed by Google whatsoever. So there are implications for marketers to not be able to just use these tools to kind of streamline our days and improve them, but we also need to make sure that the content that we're producing is human enough that Google and the other search engines will actually rank the websites that we're creating for it. But let's jump back into prompt hacking. 1 second. So I'm trying to think about a definition of what marketers actually do during the day. And the best that I could come up with was that marketers create a repeatable, scalable, predictable experience for your customers from first click to close their entire life cycle. And the best way that I can think to demonstrate what this is and how to think about it is with one of my favorite foods, the pizza. And I got to tell you that I have been on for like the last couple months now a real kick of making homemade pizzas. I don't know what happened, but I've just like fallen in love with the process of making homemade pizza. But it made me begin to wonder that if I gave you right now, if I gave you all of the ingredients that you need to make a pizza, so you've got the flour, the yeast, the salt, the water, the sugar, the sauce, the mozzarella, but I didn't give you any instructions whatsoever, and you didn't have access to a cookbook or to the internet, what sort of pizza would you be able to make with phenomenal ingredients but no instructions? And I'll tell you, right now, I'm not so sure I'd want to eat your pizza, because it's not just about the ingredients. There needs to be a recipe that you follow. And a recipe basically allows you to create a repeatable, scalable, and predictable experience for your pizza. So it's very much what marketers are trying to create, is a repeatable, scalable, and predictable experience. And if you put those together, if you have your ingredients, you have a really good recipe, and you have a chef or a marketer who's able to then use those ingredients and recipe, you can really get something wonderful. So ChatGPT is like a really amazing assortment of ingredients ready for you to create something wonderful. But it can't do it without the chef and without the recipe. So prompt hacking is essentially the idea that you need to construct a recipe for ChatGPT to follow, because it doesn't have a brain. It's going to basically only be able to do exactly what you ask of it. And the better the recipe is, the more details that you add to it, the richer and more complete the output. So I'm going to get into some very specific prompts and techniques that I want you to use. But I think it's important that we kind of take a step back and just recognize that ChatGPT and really all of these big AI tools, um, they're not intelligent. They have no brain. They don't understand really what they're saying or what they're doing. We have not reached that threshold in our computing ability where we've created life or consciousness. Really, what we've done is we've iterated significantly on things that have existed for a long time. So I think it's really important for marketers and anybody who uses this tool to understand sort of how it works and where it's come from. And essentially, ChatGPT is and you've heard the term, like a large language model. It's basically a autocomplete tool, just like what you're very familiar with. It's an autocomplete tool that can autocomplete entire documents. So rewind the clock a little bit back to Microsoft Clippy and the days when we first encountered spell checkers in our work lives. I'm kind of dating myself with the Microsoft Clippy reference, but in Microsoft Word, you would open it up, you'd write something, and it would have a dictionary. So every single word that you would type in, it would run through a dictionary and say, does this word exist in the dictionary or not? And it was a very simple if then kind of statement from a programming standpoint. It would say, if it doesn't exist, put a red squiggly line underneath, so that word doesn't match. And the user's then prompted to fix a typo or a spelling mistake. The next iteration that we saw was the autocorrect, where we kind of eliminated the need for a human to interact with the dictionary spell checker, and the computers would just do it for us. And I type in the word HTE so many times that this was a massive time saver for me. It would recognize the common misspelling of a word and just automatically fix it for me. Autocorrect also created a lot of really fun mistakes that we've all experienced in our lives. But all in all, it's great technology, and we use it, and we've just learned to kind of adapt to how it works. The next iteration on autocorrect was the autocomplete, which we see really all the time in our phones. If you have an iPhone and you start writing something like, hey, hun, I just left the office and I'm on my way. By the time you get to the end of that sentence, the iPhone is trying to figure out by pattern matching common phrases to their end words. And hey, hun, I just left the office and I'm on my way would bring up a prompt with three options. It could be home, could be work, it could be soccer or something like that, that we would then be able to auto select. So autocomplete, very cool, but it's based upon pattern matching of short sentences based upon a database of existing kind of phrases that are useful. Next, we see the auto considers pop up, and that's really using a larger database of similar type phrases. We see that in Google, where if you type in a search request, a search query, other topics are going to come up that you should also consider, or people also searched for things. We see this in e-commerce shopping carts. People that bought this also bought that. It's predictive text based on similar statements. And that leads us right into kind of the next thing that we've all experienced, which is chat bots, which kind of use all of the above already, but also then have access to a knowledge base of answers to common questions. So it's able to really, we're able to interact with them in a sophisticated way to get answers for commonly asked questions. So now a massive leap occurred, and that's ChatGPT. And it's basically just built along all of the 5 predecessors to it, except now it's not looking at short statements or common knowledge bases, sorry, but it's using quite literally 300 billion words of information. So it's got access to basically all of the literature works of mankind, and it just is trying to predict the next word or words or sentences or paragraphs or entire documents based upon the prompts. It doesn't have any idea. There is no like logic behind it. It's just a tool that's doing pattern matching and pattern predictive texts on large language models. So it's got lots of language, lots of databases, and it's trying to predict what the right outcome should be. And we talked about that earlier, where the outcomes of what it gives you are not necessarily very accurate. So I want you to know that, because the human has to interact with it. So let's get into writing a really cool prompt and trying now to leverage this system to get something awesome done. And there's a couple tips and tricks that I want to share with you that are very powerful. So let's go back to my pizza analogy and decide that we want to write an article or a blog about how to make the best pizza in the world. We would write a prompt, something like, hey, please write me a blog about how to make the perfect pizza. And here's my first tip and trick. Right after that prompt, say this: but I don't want you to write it yet, period. Please confirm that you understand. Because what I'm setting up is not one massive wall of text that you're going to give it, but rather an iterative process where you refine what you've asked by giving it and feeding it more information as you go. So don't write it yet. Please confirm that you understand. Next, we're going to add a nice layer to that. And as a marketer, one of the things that we really care passionately about is that the content that we produce will be ranked in search and appear in Google's index or in Bing. So I want to then say, prompt, make sure that this blog post is SEO optimized. And then I've got some suggestions for you to consider here. Please include the following keywords and phrases where appropriate in the text. And then you want to generate a list of those keywords. You can do that through tools like SEMrush or by doing a gap analysis. And then you want to feed that into the prompt. The primary keyword that we want to highlight in this blog post is, and then you feed it your primary keyword. In this case, best pizza in Doylestown. Doylestown just happens to be the town that I live in. And then the blog post should answer the following questions. It's always nice to kind of set up an architecture or a structure for how you want ChatGPT to develop the content. And if you don't know what questions people are asking around this topic, you can do one of 2 things. One is you can go to Google and see the people also ask dialogue. I've got a picture of it there for you. You could start typing in your search, you'll see what other people are typing, and then you can incorporate those back into ChatGPT as areas that you want it to discuss. Or you can ask ChatGPT, what are the common things that people ask around this topic? So that's very cool. Again, we end that with, but I don't want you to write it yet. We're going to iterate. Please confirm that you understand. The next prompt is that we want to include links both internally to our own website and externally to other websites. So we're going to ask it to do that. Please include external hyperlinks to the following websites for the purchase of ingredients. And in your business, you can kind of interpret to the other sites you'd want to link to. In this case, San Marzano tomatoes are the best tomatoes to use on homemade pizzas. So we're going to link to where we can find those online, fresh mozzarella, and so forth. Again, I don't want you to write it yet. Please confirm that you understand. Now we're going to do the same thing again, but with internal links in our website. And these could be links to our driving directions. They could be, if we're a restaurant, to a menu, things of that nature. Maybe there's a history page where we want to talk about kind of how we came up with the idea of being the pizza place that really cares passionately about making the best pizza in the whole world. Again, we want to end this section with, but I don't want you to write it yet. Please confirm that you understand. Now, think about this. This prompt is getting huge, but because we're doing it in an iterative basis, it's very manageable for you to think through the individual components. Next prompt, the following information contains relevant facts about pizza making. This is actually one of the most important things that you can do, is you can give ChatGPT information about your company, about competitors. If you're a marketer, oftentimes you have written a creative brief for your clients. You can give that information to ChatGPT to incorporate into its language model, so that when you ask it a question or you prompt it for more information, it now can draw upon those relevant documents and incorporate it into its output. So if we've uploaded a creative brief, we can say, use this information to compare how our pizza is different than the competition's, or include our USP, our unique selling proposition. Information about ideal clients. You can really go on and on now about the information that you've provided and what you want it to output for you. Again, just like always, I don't want you to write it yet. Please confirm that you understand. What's next? All right, the next prompt is, please write this blog as if you were an expert level chef. So you need to kind of tell it what role to assume. And that's actually very important, because you want to speak at a level that your audience wants to receive information at. So if you're writing to an expert level class, you want to speak at an expert level of understanding. If you're trying to talk in layman's terms, as my analogy with medical information was before, you need to assign that as a role. So you can be a teacher, you can be an expert, you can be a brand new marketer, you can give it a lot of different suggestions here. So you assign yourself a role, and then you need to assign your audience a role as well. And this is kind of the level that they want to receive it at. So you're going to speak at this level, but they will receive it at this level. And in this case, please write this blog as an expert level chef, but who is speaking to an audience who has never made pizzas before. So I really want it to be clearly written out. I don't want to see jargon and terminology in it. And I'm prompting ChatGPT to do so. Again, I don't want you to write it yet. Please confirm that you understand. All right, we're getting near the end here. But I like when we write content, and we do this as a human, to really make it rich and interesting content wherever possible. And I think if we can bring in quotes from outside thinkers, from statistics, various references in the industry, I want to incorporate that. And ChatGPT now makes that really easy to do. So here's a couple examples. I will say, anytime you get quotes or link outside, please check them. Again, this is a large language model that doesn't understand things, so it might not be 100% accurate, and that's where you as a human need to, A, make sure the link that it provides is up to date and not a 404, and that the code is actually attributed to the right person. And then you could even give it specific prompts about, hey, talk about the challenges that we faced in creating the best pizza in Doylestown. And at the end of this section, where you've really tried to add as much informational content here, hey, don't write it yet. Please confirm that you understand. And now we've got a really rich layered prompt that we've asked it to move ahead with. Second to the end, we're going to ask it to format the output in a way that's really useful to us. And as marketers, it's not very helpful to just get a wall of text delivered as an output. We want it in PDF formats or rich text formats. One of the formats that I like the most is markup format. Markup basically allows for it to do bolding, underlining, italics, headings, subheadings, things like that, so that when you read it, it really looks like a formatted blog post. Basically, it's completely done except for it doesn't have imagery built into it. So I like markup. There's some things to know about markup is you need to use a markup reader in order to see it, but that's very easy, and you can just ask ChatGPT where to get a markup reader, and it's a quick hyperlink to a free website. Lastly, we'll say, don't write it yet, but please confirm you understand. And now we're at the end. And this is where you just basically want to give it some guidance about how long you would like the article to be. In this case, we're going to say, I'd like it to be 1,000 words. Know, though, that you're not necessarily going to get a 1,000-word document. You can copy and paste this into a word counter, give or take a pretty wide margin of error. But I think it takes it more as like a useful suggestion. But hey, please make sure that it's at least 1,000 words. Now go ahead and write this blog. And here is one of the cool things that I think is one of the most impactful prompts you can have. Ask me a question or ask me any questions that you have that will help you write a better blog. And it's at this point where ChatGPT is going to review everything that you've asked it, and it's going to decide, are there more things that I need to know? And this is where sometimes you'll get some really interesting things back from it, where it could say, hey, it would really help if I understood the geography, or tell me a little bit about the audience, or hey, you said manufacturers, but I need more. Is it on medical manufacturing or industrial or it's going to ask you questions that add a layer of richness in your content. Once you've done this, you're going to be really amazed at the output that you'll see. The blog and the content that you get is really rich, really fun, and it's a really interesting article. That's where you kind of reinsert yourself back into it, and now you become an editor, and you, again, add a layer of richness over top of it. I think it's a fantastic process. We're going to provide you the prompts that I have here today. And what I suggest you do is that you start your own recipe. Just like grandma had the Rolodex of recipes, you need to start building your own little notebook with recipes inside of it. Things that you can copy and paste into ChatGPT to help you orchestrate and create a really fantastic recipe. We have a PDF document with all of this written out in it in a nice format. At the end of the presentation today, you're going to get a link to it and you can just download it. And super excited to be able to deliver this with you. And I'm super excited if you don't mind, share some of your feedback in working with these tools and let us know your experience with them. With that, thank you so much. And I'm going to turn it back over to Haley.
Thank you, Greg. Yeah, that was awesome. Really, really helpful takeaway. So we're almost wrapping up here at the end. I just want to talk about a few of our key points. AI, you definitely need a human involved. It's a manual process that does make your work better, but you still need to be involved. The integrations are growing rapidly, and we're going to expect to see them in our regular tools and not just in these special AI tools. And then it's going to eliminate creative blocks. It won't replace your team. You're still going to need your team. And then it's a tool you need to use with caution. But if you have any questions, we're going to open up our social media accounts, Facebook and Instagram, linked here on the bottom. Have any questions, feel free to pop them in there. We'll be on all day answering all of your AI questions. But thank you guys so much for joining us. And this has been a great hour.
Good. Thanks, everybody.